Roki Sasaki is arguably one of the most polished rookies that Major League Baseball will ever see. And you could even argue that he's the second best free agent in this year's class, right after Juan Soto. And it has some pretty loaded names as well. The Blue Jays are amongst one of the teams that are going to be in on the Japanese superstar services. But will they be finalists yet again, or are they actually going to be able to land a free agent of substance? We'll break it down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Jay's Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And before we get into the video, I want to thank each and every one of you for all the support that we've gotten on recent videos because it's been truly unbelievable. And even if you guys don't agree with us in the comments all the times, we really appreciate all of your support. And don't stop it right there. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because we want to get that percentage down a little bit more. We want more of our subscribers to keep coming back and watching our videos. But shout out to you guys, the daily content, the twice daily content. It's not going to stop right here. But Nick, we got some interesting news surrounding Roki Sasaki, who, in my opinion, is going to be one of the best rookies that Major League Baseball will ever see. And we saw a pretty great one last year in Paul Skeens. I think Sasaki has that level of stuff in his arsenal. He is an unbelievable pitcher with a fastball in the triple digits. He's, like most Japanese pitchers, got a dominant splitter to his name. And the slider, the curveball, the changeup, it's all plus, plus, plus. And the command too. It's really solid. Can't be understated. And the one thing with Sasaki is that you are going to be getting him for an absolute bargain when he first comes into Major League Baseball because he got posted earlier. He got out of his contract with the Chibolote Marines, which was his NPB team, and some team is going to get some really nice value out of him, at least for the first 6 seasons before he enters free agency. And hopefully the Jays are that team.
Yeah, and reports are starting to fly. Favorites at the moment, there's a bunch of different reports circulating. Of course, the Dodgers, the Mets, all these random teams are going to be in the mix. But a report dropped about the Blue Jays, and it said the Blue Jays and the Phillies may seem like they're on the outside looking in, but keep in mind when lists were made about which teams were in the running to sign Ohtani in 2017, the Angels never came up. The Phillies provide a winning environment and a solid pitching staff. They've never signed a Japanese player, but they made a serious run at Yamamoto. Toronto might be even more of a long shot given their lack of postseason success and pitching development, but the Blue Jays are expected to make a strong play, perhaps leaning on the lack of media glare north of the border. And it's an interesting point here. And obviously, this reporter regarding Ohtani, we think back to when the Jays were in on Ohtani. They were finalists as well for Ohtani back in 2017. And then out of nowhere, he kind of shocked everybody and went to the Los Angeles Angels, a team that wasn't really heavily linked or heavily favored in the sweepstakes. So maybe the Jays can pull what the Angels did back in 2017 and look to sign and steal Sasaki from the other teams. We're going to dive into a bunch of different things here, but according to this report, the Jays are making a strong play, relying on some of the lack of media glare north of the border. We're going to dive into Sasaki and kind of what he's been like, but I want to kind of preface it by saying a report came out from the Athletics' Will Saman, probably mispronouncing that. Sasaki is expected to prioritize stability, lifestyle, comfort, and a team's track record in player development. Now, the Jays definitely have some positives when it comes to these things. They have pretty solid, especially when it comes to resources, the newly renovated Rogers Center, postseason success, all those things. Still not really a positive. Is what they lack. But it's a very interesting report nonetheless. And the first time in a little bit we've heard Sasaki linked to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, if you're a Major League Baseball team and you're not trying to sign this guy, I think you have an issue and you should be fired on the spot. That's what I truly believe. And I even saw that the White Sox
Yep.
had a presentation prepared for Roki Sasaki. They're not going to get him. At least I don't think he wants to go to the worst team in Major League Baseball history. They wouldn't be the worst team in MLB history with him on the roster. But look, he it's not a money thing. This is not whichever team wins these sweepstakes, whichever team can offer the most amount of money over the most amount of years. This is a international signing bonus that you're giving to this guy, similar to what the Blue Jays gave Vladdy when he was 16 years old, when they gave him 4.5 million or whatever the number was at that time. So this is not going to be the Dodgers swooping in and offering $500 million so he could play alongside his compatriots and Yamamoto and Ohtani. This is going to be a race where every team is involved. I'm sure there's going to be a pecking order. Personally, for me, I believe the Padres and the Dodgers are probably at the top because Sasaki has been very vocal about wanting to be in a familiar environment. his mentor, his idol is Yu Darvish, so that makes sense for him to go to the Padres. And two of his best friends are playing on the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they're coming off a World Series victory. However, there may not be as much opportunity in that rotation. I'm sure he'll stand out, but they already have four really good pitchers in that five-man rotation. So I'm sure he's going to want to go out there and throw as many innings as possible, not have any limitations on himself. And another thing which I like about this quote here that you're showing, Nick, the stability, lifestyle, and comfort. He's been very vocal about mental health and how the Japanese media kind of affected the way that his performance went sometimes in the Japanese league. I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell with his numbers, but he has struggled and he has been open with his mental health struggles. So maybe being in a more low-key environment like Toronto would suit him. And you could say the same for a lot of other teams around Major League Baseball. But the point is, there's no sweepstakes here. You just have to convince him that you are the best place for him to develop and get paid once he is able to hit free agency in about 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't going for the Jays, but there are also some things specifically regarding a free agent like this that do help the Jays. I mean, you see this here again. It's similar to Shohei's situation in certain ways. Obviously, not a two-way player, but for a team such as the Jays, adding a cheap arm, we know how good Sasaki would be to this team, especially because they're trying to add a top-of-the-line talent. And it would kind of reset their, I mean, culture. It would reset the whole kind of face of that rotation for years to come. He would be the ace in theory for years to come, especially with Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassett,
Yeah.
facing free agency over next year and the year after for Kevin Gausman. And there's just a lot of things that are going down here. And as you look at the money that they can actually make, certain teams, they're all going to be in around the same kind of venture regarding money. Some teams have a little bit more. The Dodgers, I believe, can offer a little bit more. But when it comes to that, I don't think Sasaki's going to base his, next handful, half decade of his career based on, $500,000 at this point. He's going to get paid anyways. So I think he's going to prioritize, like the report says, stability, media attention, all these different things. And that's why I think the Jays are a pretty good fit. That being said, you can see this here. Some of the requirements don't bode well for the Jays. Obviously, a lot of their facilities, things like that. But when you're talking about Vladdy not being extended, Bo not being extended, I mean, they don't have the Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They don't have, like you mentioned, a best friend on the Padres. So it's interesting, but the Jays are going to have an uphill battle to climb here, specifically surrounding just the future of the team in general. Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, both pending, contracts are expiring. And then, I mean, I didn't think that the Vladdy contract was going to be a huge issue. It seems like it's a massive issue for every single free agent that's involved.
Yeah, and as it should be. I mean, when your team's best player is a year away from free agency, it's definitely a worrying thing when you're committing that many years of your playing career to a certain place, and there's uncertainty surrounding not only its best player, but arguably its second best player as well in Bo Bichette. So, as I mentioned earlier, Nick, every team should be in on Roki Sasaki. They would be foolish not to, and maybe they could view it as a waste of time, but anyone can offer the same amount of money. Maybe he clicks with the pitching coach in I don't know. Give me a team, the Washington
Chicago.
Nationals. Maybe he clicks with the pitching coach of the Washington Nationals, and he thinks that's the best place for him to play because of guys like C.J. Abrams and James Wood because they have a bright future. Like you truly never know what these guys are thinking internally. I think the Blue Jays have a good chance. I think Pete Walker and the way that he has developed pitchers is also another thing that could help sway him in the direction of Toronto. But if I had to give you a pecking order right now, I would have the Padres and Dodgers firmly at the top. I wouldn't say that the Dodgers are clear favorites just because of that relationship that he does have with Yu Darvish and the Padres are also looking to slash payroll, so it would be a dream for any team to get this guy for $5 million, and then the league minimum for 6 years or whatever it would be with arbitration rules. But I think the Padres would benefit from that really nicely as well.
Yeah, a ton of teams are going to be interested. Every single team in baseball, obviously, and you can mention he is valuing things such as the team's track record of player development, which the Jays actually do very well when it comes to pitchers as of late. There's also been some struggles as of late with Alek Manoah, you can mention, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think if there's a chance, the Jays definitely are in on it. So let us know down below what your thoughts are on that. I'm not going to ask you guys if you want to see Roki Sasaki. I'm sure every single player, every single
Yes.
fan, every person in the world wants to see Roki Sasaki on their team. But let us know down below what your thoughts are and leave your prediction on what team he will join. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.